Okay, speed squat and not max effort deadlift day today. Because I've been a dumbass the last couple of weeks and have earned myself a deload. And how things feel today, I was actually kind of thinking like, maybe I could actually train, but then I remembered how I felt on Saturday and want to make sure I shake the fatigue off. So we're keeping things a little bit toned down once again. And goal with the squats today is to use it as an opportunity to dial in that pick, dial in that brace, and dial in the in and out of the bottom, which is probably going to be the most important part. Which is why I'm running the 1.5 squats. And the plan here is to run 5 doubles that probably feel too light in all reality. Because on a deload week, the goal is to shake fatigue off, not work hard. And some dipshit in the Instagram comments today was talking about how using leg drive on bench is the equivalent of putting a belt on for 2 plates on squats. So I don't know, maybe I should be ashamed of this. But if one of the goals of this is to better figure out my brace situation, I better be giving myself realistic brace practice with the belt on, you know? Anyways, work sets, 150 kgs, let's lock in.
If you're looking for a place where you can get unlimited form checks, answers to all of your training questions, as well as recommendations on how to better set up your programming to target your weak points so you can smash PRs, hit that link below and sign up for Team Activated. Plus, you're going to get access to my entire educational library with hours of content designed to make you a better and smarter lifter.
And big take-home message for today's session is just because it's a deload doesn't mean that it's a fuck around day. Because the way you're going to get something out of the lightweights is by taking them very seriously.
Yes. Good. Forward, yeah.
And watched old videos of my squats, counted fucking belt holds. It was like, I probably have my belt way too fucking tight right now. That's why brace feels like shit. And lo and behold, 4 holes loose, you're reaching for it. The head fucking feels like standing here, this feels way too loose. But when I'm under the bar, I can actually find it. And then it's like, it has so much more like thigh compression. But I gotta remember, like into Vegas, like I missed 390 kilo at 6 weeks out. Now the mindfuck is like, does it feel good just because it's light, or does it feel good because it's doing better?
You send the holes fine, then when you come up,
You're extending, okay.
Extend it, and then you're in that position
Yeah.
for the rest of it.
So I'll be a little more this to go with that. Any change? Okay.
First one was
Yeah. Okay. Sick. And I don't know if that's going to be good enough to call good, but good enough to call at least promising. And before I say what I was going to say, let's take a moment to appreciate Joel doing his deload deadlifts with more than I tired myself out with last week. Anyways, what I was going to say is that what I was experimenting with during those squats was running my belt 3 or 4 holes looser than I had been. And the reason I first thought like, hey, maybe the belt is too tight is I was trying to scan back to my old Instagram videos the last time I was this body weight. I was like looking at my belt position, looking at the belt size, looking at how pushed out I was, looking at what hole the belt was in. And I realized like, I have the belt way freaking tighter than I did the last time I was down here. And I know that because the last time I went down to 242, I had to run the belt looser than I thought I would. I just didn't remember how loose it had to be to work. And like the problem with the belt being too tight at this body weight is like, as a fat guy, as a 320 pounder, like I had so much squish that I could tighten the belt up against my squish and then still expand out into it. Now that I don't really have all that much squish, if the belt is tight, it gives me no room to breathe low and expand out to set my brace. And I think that because the belt was tight, I had this false sense of tightness that was coming from belt rather than coming from brace enhancing what the belt was doing for me. It is now time to deadlift, and the plan is 2 triples at something that kind of moves like the heavier end of speed work. And no matter how good or bad this feels, this is top set for the day because deload, and there's no real point in going up from here. So we better freaking smack it. Yeah. And that might be the best 220 has felt in a couple weeks. So I think maybe recovery is going in the right direction, hopefully. Joel trying to co-star in the vlog again, but last set. Woo! The temptation to not be a pussy today is very high. And that feeling as good as it did kind of tells me that last week's performance being so limited by fatigue, it probably acted like a fatigue wash, and I didn't 100% need to deload this week. But I think in terms of making the smarter call, the safer call, the call that guarantees a good meet, I still think running the deload today was the right one, even if it feels kind of lame. Anyways, after this traffic jam of specialty bars clears up, we're gonna get into some not super high effort stiff legs. Because doing the stiff leg with a little bit of thoracic rounding, it teaches me to not over T-spine my initiation on my conventional dead and end up way behind the bar and unable to lock out like a loser. That's enough. Remember, it's a deload, right? Round 2. Am very optimistic with how things are feeling. And I figure I'll hop in here with Joel and run some not super strenuous upper back touching. You're going more like rear delty? You're going more like rear delty on him? Yeah. 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 That IR? Yeah. I actually haven't used this machine for that. Feels nice.
Especially because you can fork into it. Like
Yeah. Exposing how terrible my shoulder range of motion is right now on the right side. Quite embarrassing. And I think I'm going to go underhand, more laddie-ish for this one to kind of touch the other side of the shoulder and upper back dealio. And like light week, main work, my intent is to move it really saucy, even if it's light. But then accessories, my only goal is to try to feel good. So we're not like being necessarily lazy, but I'm just trying to get a really nice squeeze, touch a little pump, do the junk volume work, as the kids would say. And you might be wondering, but Seth, why would you load it like junk volume if your goal is to shake off fatigue? Aren't you just tacking on fatigue for the sake of tacking on fatigue? But if I were to actually load it and actually work hard, that would be much more fatiguing. And this way I'm still moving and doing something and recovering more so than I would if I actually pushed. And for a little bit of that hip touching, we're gonna load the Bulgarians today. Starting here because this is what Darrell and Leanna are using, so hopefully I don't rip my hip off or something. Trying to carry a little bit more like torso angle than I did the other week to get a bit more Magnus than the last time I did these with the SSB because I was trying to touch more butt cheek. Feels good. Still a lot of butt cheek, which is nice because we need more butt cheek. Whew, so nice. Yeah, you can go. You can get in there. Yeah, very glad I bought that split squat pad because being able to set it up easily against the mono so we can change heights, have something to hold on to for stability, plus this being a roller, not a bench, being able to like hook your foot over it versus kind of like planting and bending, you can stabilize and drive through so much freaking better. And one of my guys, Robert, has been struggling a little bit with his squat brace as of late, so we're going to talk about the GHR sit-up modification that we gave him this week to try to get some of that bracing skill back. And we'll try to get an Instagram reel out of it at the same time. GHR sit-ups for rectus abdominis strength, we're going to want to keep the hips locked and then think about leading by curling the ribcage up first out of the bottom. But if we want more direct transfer to our squat brace, what we're trying to do is lock the hips, squeeze the glutes again, keep the torso rigid as possible, and then reverse hip hinge, pulling yourself up with the hip flexors. And I did enough takes there to definitely get some good ab work in, but I'm not sure if I got one that was reelable, so whatever. We'll be fine. I think like a mistake I've made in the past is like doing shit like ab work or doing like Copenhagen stuff, like trying to get a reel right while doing a hard movement. I have overcooked the shit out of the movement to get the reel, and then my actual training has suffered. So what I'm trying to be less of a dumbass influencer on is making sure that if I am going to try to make something educational, that I'm not fucking up the big picture with the educational content, as stupid as that sounds. But I think that like that also applies to everything you should be doing if you are going to take a light week. Because if you are going to deload, the reason you're deloading is to shake fatigue off, and your goal during that deload is going to be to do the bare minimum to keep the ball rolling so that you can recover as well as possible to get back into training. Like the biggest reason that I don't love feeling like I need to take a deload is because I never really want to be cooked to the point that I actually need this to happen. That's why I do prefer the fatigue washing strategy. But having this in the back pocket as like a insurance policy, a safety mechanism in case I do screw up with the fatigue washing like I had, like we're going to be totally fine. And I know that if I execute this week well and if I keep doing what I'm doing, like I'm getting more and more and more optimistic with how I feel and how the bar has moved these first 2 days, and I'm expecting that trend to continue. So thank you guys for watching. Peace out. Have a good rest of your night.